السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah, today's show is going to be a little different. It is our first airing on here. So I have somebody here by the name of Idris Miskinyar, mashallah, from the youth. He spent a couple years overseas studying out in Yemen. He was also in Tarim, the city called Tarim in Yemen, in the south of Yemen. Also, mashallah, he spent another year in Cairo studying out there. And mashallah, he's 19 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's a student. He's a college student here, mashallah, and he's working full-time too, and he's a basketball player. So we're going to be interviewing him and asking him about the youth and his transition from the east to the west. And at the same time, we're going to, inshallah, speak about the problems we have amongst the youth in this day and age. And inshallah, I'm going to start with asking Idris some questions, and then we'll get on also correlating and making a connection between this, and obviously coming with examples from Hadith, Quran and Hadith, from the book of Allah and Kalam al-Rasul and the speech of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Try to make a link with all that, inshallah. So first, I want to ask you, how long was it when you were back in Yemen?
How long was I there?
How long ago were you in Yemen?
2008.
2008.
Yeah, so I was like 10.
10 years old, mashallah.
Yeah.
So you're 19 now, so that was 9 years ago.
Almost, yeah.
Okay, mashallah. So you were back there, you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
And when you were in Yemen, what did you study there?
I went there primarily to study Quran, but also I picked up Arabic. I took a few Arabic classes there, but primarily Quran.
Primarily Quran, mashallah. So you are half of the Quran, you memorize the Quran, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. I remember before I left out there, I think I followed your footsteps, mashallah. You and your father's footsteps back in 2010, the beginning of 10 I left. Alhamdulillah, we got back about 2 months ago. Now, the thing was, you also fluent in Arabic, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. And so you were in Egypt, and you were also in Egypt. So you first went out to Yemen.
Yeah, I was originally in Yemen, and then I came back to the United States, and then I went back to Egypt about a year and a half later. I went to Egypt then.
Okay, a year and a half later. Okay, mashallah. And how long were you in Egypt for again?
For about a year, a little over a year.
Sure. And I remember you were also studying Hadith there also, right?
Oh, yeah, for a short amount of time I did Hadith, and I finished my Hifz in Egypt as well.
Mashallah, so you finished your Hifz and got back. Alhamdulillah. And what are you doing now? So if you tell us a little bit about yourself, now that you've been back in the States for a long time. I think you came back when you were 13 years old, I believe, 14?
Yeah, in the
13?
8th grade, so I was here. So since high school I've been here, so
okay,
for the last 5-6 years.
So the last 5-6 years you've been back in the States, mashallah. So what are you doing now that you've been back?
I mean, I got back, and I was helping out at the masjid, preparing for like Tarawih and stuff, etc. And then once that happened, I got into school, and it was a transition straight into high school. I hadn't been into middle school and stuff, so I skipped a lot of years of school. So I was just jumped straight into high school. And when I got into high school, I found difficulty with like things like math and English. And then I also got into playing basketball. So now I'm currently a student at college at Alameda, junior college. I'm playing on their basketball team, and I'm also working.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. And I remember academically you're doing well too. You want to transfer out to UCLA. So
yeah, that was like the number one problem. Academics were always difficult for me because I missed so much school, like with my Hifz and stuff. But yeah, I've kind of gotten back into the group now. So
I mean, being a Hafiz of Quran, that opens up, broadens your horizon, your mind.
Definitely helps, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So now you're here. So I know you're taking basketball really seriously. I know that because I see you're always in tournaments and you're traveling playing basketball and whatnot. How would you? So the reason, mashallah, obviously. First I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And mashallah, you made so the reason we have you because you can be a great example here for the youth how you made the transition, and obviously, the difficulties that people go, especially people your age. Now you're 19, anywhere between the ages of 17, 18, 19, up to 25. People are struggling, especially people that are into the Deen. They're here trying to make a connection and a balance between Deen and Dunia, which is very hard. I was born and raised here, and for me, I had to leave to study for an amount of years overseas to find myself, and because of all the stuff that I went through here and the lifestyle I used to live. But what do you find here most difficult for the youth? Why do you think in this day and age? Because there's the Hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam where it says there's not a day and age that passes where the state of the ummah gets worse and worse. Obviously, from me growing up in high school to now you, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think is the obstacles and the difficulties that people your age are facing?
Well, first and foremost, I think the first main difference was transition when I was in Egypt. or Yemen, and then coming back here, there's no distractions in those places. Like when I came back here, there's so many distractions that I was thrown right into high school. So I go into high school, it's like I'm used to seeing things differently. The people are different, the men are different, the women are different. But when I came here, it was more so like there's a lot more distractions, there's a lot more like negative things that go on, and it's like balancing Deen and Dunya have to be the most difficult things there is, because even I studied overseas and I did all these things, and I have a decent amount of knowledge about the Deen, but I still find myself even struggling, like, you know, balancing where it's like, you know, this is my Deen and this is my Dunya, this is where I need to focus on. I need to make sure I'm getting my prayers in. I need to make sure I'm remembering Allah and I'm taking care of my Deen, but also having my Dunya there, whereas I'm not forgetting what's going on in the world as well.
What do you so if you would say, what would you say would be, obviously, so now let's talk about, I know the transition was hard in the beginning, and that was about 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, I would say, because you came here as a freshman, you finished high school, now it's your first year in college, right?
Second year.
So you're 19, you're going on 20.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made that transition. Now I see that you're working out, you're going to the gym, you're taking a lot of units. Mashallah, you're getting, you're trying to apply to what you're applying to a UC, so your grades are very good. So what do you not? So let's leave the part when you first got back. Now we know that transition's down. Now right now, what do you think you find the most difficult? Would you say would it be having good company, maybe friends? What do you think most people your age? What kind of difficulties are they finding when it comes to the Deen? What would you say? You think it's mostly their crowd? Maybe what kind of friends they have, their company, or maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so definitely friends and company. A lot of times, like nowadays, a lot of people have like gotten desensitized to a lot of things. So things such as drugs, alcohol, all this stuff has like become the norm. So most people do these things. So it's like if you don't do it, your friends are doing it, and you're trying to do your best to stay away from these things. And also, I feel like the role models and the shuyukh and the individuals we need to look up to and the role models we need to have are not as approachable as we would like. Yeah, so it's like, we go to the masjid and stuff, and we want to talk to someone about Deen, and we want to like further our knowledge and get into the Deen. But a lot of times when I go to these places, or when I see other people go and they tell me the stories and the experiences they had at the masjid or at these gatherings and talks and etc., they're extremely, like, they feel like they've been attacked. Like they're not being told and helped and guided. More so, it's like they're being attacked, and they're saying, "Oh no, this is what you have to do, and you have to wear the hijab like this, and you have to do this," which is true, obviously. But for someone who's new to this, that's not the right way to talk to them. You need to slowly let them get their toes wet a little bit. You just don't dive straight into the water.
Damn, wow, that's beautiful. I think, mashallah, Brother Idris has really broken down from the perspective of a youth growing up here. Obviously, was born and raised here in the States. He had the benefit of spending a good amount of years studying and memorizing the Quran overseas, coming back. So basically, I could kind of sum up what you're saying. Maybe the elders, and we're not by any means here trying to knock the elders, but there's probably a big gap between the youth and the
extremely big gap.
There's a big gap, yeah. And maybe they don't have the right, I don't want to use the word hikmah or wisdom, but maybe they don't know how to relate to the youth.
Yeah, I feel, because the generation we're in now, we were brought up differently. I feel like they're more like old-fashioned and more cultural. So whenever we're the new generation, we're coming and trying to, we're a little bit different. And then whenever we try to connect and relate to them, they don't see it from our point of view. And they're the ones, they already have the knowledge. They already know the Deen. They know Allah. But it's the youth and the people of my age that don't. And whenever we're trying to go and talk to these people, sometimes I feel like it's kind of like brushed off as if like we're unimportant in a sense.
SubhanAllah. MashaAllah, it's beautiful that you brought that to our attention. I remember there's a hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam where the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, "Man la yahum sigharana wa yaraf shirafa kibarana laysa minna." Well, basically the Prophet, peace be upon him, saying this. I know you know Arabic, so I have to translate this. I'm sorry. But the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the one that does not have mercy on the youth, right, and does not know the maqam, the honor of the elders, is not from us. So first and foremost, this advice is to myself that, inshallah, I think everybody in our community is built to do something different. Not all of us could be an imam, or not all of us had the opportunity to go overseas and study. Not all of us. So I think this is where people, maybe I'll say my age or first generation, that actually the people that have studied, that went overseas, that they need to fill in this gap. like we need to step to the plate and fill in the gap between. So I'm 32, between me and you 19. Like I've seen you grow up in front of me, mashallah, since you're a child. So I think we need to make a correlation here, and we need to make a connection between us and the next generation coming up. Because I remember, mashallah, your family members and your relatives were big role models for me. When I was your age, I had, mashallah, your father, I had your uncles, and I had those people that kind of guided me, and at the same time they had the wisdom and rahmah and the mercy to be able to, and they understand, they understood my situation, right? So basically, mashallah, Brother Idris is saying that we need to find, and people, especially the guys that have studied, that are my age. I think they need to step out there and you know, and obviously nobody's going to come to you and seek information. I think they need to step out there and do the groundwork and reach out to the youth. Maybe have some kind of activities at the mosque, or not even at the mosque, maybe at your house or wherever the place might be.
Just meet us halfway.
Exactly, mashallah. He said, meet them halfway. And subhanAllah, I mean, this is, wallahi, believe it or not, like I wasn't expecting I was going to learn so much from you, because I'm fairly new, and I need to myself. I'm benefiting from mashallah, from what you're saying right now. It's opening me up big time. What would you also getting more into it? You say, so you think you would say the number one thing, I would actually want to take notes and write this down, would be that it would be the connection, meeting halfway. What else would you say would be another strong point, or another maybe something else you can touch on why you think so? The first reason is here that the youth are because they don't have somebody that can meet them halfway, that can understand them. What other reasons would you say the youth are kind of away from the Deen, or what else could it be? Because obviously, I know you said the company you keep. Yeah. You see your friends, and there's a hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Al-maru ala dini khalilihi falyanzur liman yukhalil." That a person is on the deen of his companion. So look who your companion is, right? So if the Rasul, I mean, this is mashallah, you said it, and you said this from experience of living here. Yeah. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Sahih Hadith said this 1400 years ago to us, that we should always be on our guard of who our friends are, because a person is on the deen of his companion, right?
You're only as good as your friends, yeah.
You're only as good as your friends, mashallah. And this is a youth here, that's mashallah a popular kid who's mashallah a great basketball player academically, and at the same time he studied the deen, and he came back here, and it's only been since he's came back, because I mean, you were born and raised here, but he left for about 3 years, 4 years, and he came back for about 6 years now, and he's realized this, mashallah. And also the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us this as well. So what else would you say besides, obviously, so we got here, there's a gap between the elders and the youth. Number two, obviously the companions, who your friends are, has a big influence. What else would you say? If you anything else you can maybe tell us that?
Also, I feel like just in general in society today, it's so easy to fall into sin. And as youth, you know, we're constantly making our decisions on our own. You know, I'm 19, I go to school. So we're given freedom, and we're able to experiment and make choices on our own, which is why it's very easy to fall into sin. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when people my age who don't really have that much knowledge about the deen fall into sin, eventually it gets to a point where they're like, I've sinned so much, maybe Allah is not going to forgive me anymore. And people don't understand the true mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that being said, I feel like they get to a point where they're like, all right, I've gotten here, and there's like no return. Like the sins I've committed, I don't think Allah is going to forgive me for it. So I'm just going to continue to live my life the way I've been living it.
SubhanAllah, mashallah, that's an excellent point. And I remember when I first left, because with all due honesty, I was born and raised here, and I lived a different lifestyle, and that was one of the main problems I had. And that's mashallah, it's beautiful you touched on this, because I remember, I'm going to read a hadith that I came across that mashallah, exactly what you said, and I fell into this myself, because when I left, I remember the first year, I suppose in 2010, when I was the first year in Yemen, or 2011, I was just like, man, how could Allah forgive me? I've done so many sins. I'm 24 years old. I've lived a whole life of sin, and now I'm here. And you know, subhanAllah. So that's Hajib. You said that. So there's a hadith that I want to share with you guys, and this is a hadith of Qudsi. So a hadith of Qudsi, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is narrating this hadith. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that he سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the Sahaba says, so and Anas رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول حديث قدسي قال الله سبحانه وتعالى يا ابن آدم إنك ما دعوتني ورجوتني غفرت لك لما كان منك ولا أبالي. Now I'm going to translate this first part, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, O son of Adam, for as long as you call upon me, and as long as that you have hope in me, for whatever sins you have committed, I will forgive you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ibn Adam, O son of Adam, as long as you have hope in me and you call upon me, you make dua to me, you ask me for forgiveness, I'll forgive you. The second part of the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ibn Adam, لو بلغ ذنوبك عنان سمائي ثم استغفرتني غفرت لك ولا أبالي. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O son of Adam, I wouldn't care if your sins would reach the clouds of the skies and the heavens. As long as you ask for forgiveness, I'll forgive you. Right? And then the last part of the hadith, subhanAllah, this hadith is beautiful. Ya ibn Adam, إنك لو أتيتني بقراب الأرض خطايا ثم لقيتني ولا تشرك بي شيئا أتيتك بقرابها مغفرة. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O son of Adam, if you were come to me with an earthload of sins, and a meaning equivalent to the earth in sins, and as long as when you meet you, you don't associate, as long as when you meet me, you don't associate any partners with me, I will match that, come to you, equivalent to the earth in rahmah, in mercy. SubhanAllah, Allahu Akbar, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy here. I mean, basically, in the tafsir that I got from this hadith, and mashallah, I have to translate this, I'm sorry, for the viewers, is that as long as you sin, even if you're sinning, right? Sometimes we make tawbah. We fall into a sin, we make tawbah, and we're like, how's Allah going to forgive me? How's Allah going to forgive me? I just made tawbah and I fell back in the same sin. And then you fall back into the same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in Hadith al-Qudsi, as long as you ask forgiveness, I will forgive you. As long as you sincerely come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking forgiveness, even though you fell into the same sin over and over, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. So there's no reason we should ever doubt the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He named Himself in the 99 names of Allah.
Rahman ar-Rahim.
Allahu Akbar, mashallah, He's Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has named Himself the most compassionate, the most merciful. So we have no right, no matter what kind of sinners we are, to ever be able to doubt Allah's mercy. Mashallah, would you agree with that?
Definitely, I definitely agree, because the only sin that's really unforgivable is shirk. So as long as we have Iman in our heart, anything we do is going to be forgiven. So
Allahu Akbar, mashallah. I mean, so there is hope for people like us, alhamdulillah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mean, look, I mean, this is beautiful. So no matter what you've done, as long as you sincerely keep asking forgiveness, Allah will forgive you. Allah will forgive you. I mean, one of the greatest sins is doubting Allah's mercy.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you heard that when you were studying out there too, that the scholars say doubting Allah's mercy is one of the gravest sins. There is no sin that a human can commit that's greater than Allah's mercy. Right? Like he said, maybe shirk is the only thing, right? So besides that, there's nothing that you can literally commit that's greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And you know, unfortunately, we hear, I mean, I had this problem when I was young. I don't know if you guys see this too, that some of us that probably sin and lived a life of sin, when you start practicing, people always want to bring up your past. People always want, does that happen?
Yeah, so there's like a short amount of time where when I really got into basketball and I'd be in practice, I'd once in a while, like I'd miss a prayer and things of that sort, and then the people I'd hang around with really didn't know how religious I was, I guess. They didn't know how much time I'd spent devoting to the religion. And like they'd see me praying and stuff, they'd be like, oh man, you was trying to do that the other week, but now you're sitting here praying and stuff. And then I just tell them, I was like, look, just because I'm not a perfect person, just because I committed a sin doesn't mean I'm going to completely cut myself off from God.
Allahu Akbar, mashallah. Mashallah, mashallah, our Ustad here, he said it perfect. And that's another thing I want to get on, because you know, when people tell you, you know, we need to understand that change is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables somebody to change, and if somebody else tells you, or you can't change, or people don't change, I mean, that's the kalam of shaitan. Would you not agree? I mean, those are the words of Satan, because Satan tries to make you despair from Allah's mercy, right? Satan, that's his number one thing, is when you start practicing, you live the life of sin, what he tries to do is make you despair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. So when somebody tells you that, I mean, that's just put that aside. Don't even listen to that. Because like we said, change is from the law, is from the mercy of Allah, and doubting Allah's mercy is a great sin.
Exactly. I mean, some of the greatest Sahabas were at one point the enemies of the Prophet.
Subhanallah.
And then, I mean, now they're guaranteed Jannah. So
Allahu Akbar, mashallah.
About that.
There's hope, mashallah. And I want to read mashallah, I shouldn't be reading the Quran, the ayah of the Quran. We have a hafiz here, but with your permission, inshallah, I want to read an ayah of the Quran here that also touches on the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قُلْ يَا إِبَادِي قُلْ يَا إِبَادِي. And I want to stop here. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, قُلْ يَا إِبَادِي, He's saying, say, O my servants. Now this ayah is meant for the sinners, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't call them sinners. From His mercy, look at this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes the sinners to Himself. It was قُلْ يَا إِبَادِي, my servants. even their sinful servants, Allah says, my servants. I mean, that's just beautiful. He goes, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِي الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِي الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ, the ones that transgressed and sinned against themselves. لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ, do not despair from Allah's mercy. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. All sins. I mean, it's an ayah in the Quran. We read it, we narrated a hadith al-Qudsi. Now we're backing it up with an ayah from the Quran on the mercy of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. So there's no reason that anybody, no matter what sin they've committed, to be despairing from the mercy of Allah. Would you, I mean, mashallah, would you not agree with that? I mean,
of course, as we've just been talking about it the whole time, I definitely agree.
Mashallah.
Allah's mercies.
MashaAllah. So mashallah, you've made excellent points here for us. Obviously, one is the connection the youth don't have to the elders or to the imams or the people in the community. So we need to bridge that gap right there to find people that can relate more with the youth. Alhamdulillah, when I was growing up, I was so fortunate to have people like that. Like I said, mashallah, many of them were from your family members that I looked up to, and any question I had in regards to the Deen, they had mercy on me, and never ever once did, mashallah, starting from your father and your uncle and other relatives, they never scared me away. Oh, astaghfirullah, this is that. You know, like the hadith of Rasul, man la yarham la yarham. Whoever is not shown mercy will not be shown mercy.
Yeah.
And when I came to them for help, exactly what I got was mercy, was love and mercy. So would you say if there's any other points between the gap between them not understanding the youth and also those despairing from Allah's mercy? Is there anything else you could say that's probably making the youth kind of away from the Deen?
I mean, also in general, I found something that really helped me throughout high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like really stay away from some of the negative influences was having something to do. Like I played basketball in high school, so that was a hobby of mine. That's something I put a lot of time into and something I was extremely passionate about. So all my hours, all my free time went into that. I feel like when as youth, when we don't have anything to do and we're just sitting at the house and we're not doing anything, that's when it's like these things starts coming into our head. Like, let me go out and do this. Let me hit this person up. Me playing basketball was definitely an outlet that kept me away from sin. And it really, like, throughout high school, really, like, helped me out big time. Because I didn't get it. Like, I didn't even know what a lot of these things people were doing. I didn't even know what they were until, like, I got into college and people were talking about it. I was like, wait, what? People were doing that in high school? What? No way. Because I was just playing basketball. Yeah. I wasn't even into that. It was just me and, like, I'd hang out with my teammates and that was it. And that's as far as I knew. It was just basketball.
SubhanAllah, mashallah, extracurricular activities. That's a big must. So mashallah, and I can obviously I didn't play a high school sport, but to be honest with you, one thing I could say, and I remember saying this, is I used to also be an athlete, and I think that really, really protected me. I think because when I would get out of school, I'd go straight to the gym. I'd be in the gym from morning to night, and you'd be so tired when you get out to do anything else.
It's nothing. And then the next day you're just motivated to go in and get better.
You get better, yeah. Exactly. Mashallah, to perfect your craft. So I think, mashallah, Brother Idris has made good points. I want to touch on every single one of these. And subhanAllah, and I remember speaking, you know what's ajib is when I was growing up, and the reason why I want to use myself as an example, not to speak about myself, but my biggest mentor was your father, because I was a boxer, and obviously you were a basketball player. Basketball is you could say a funner sport, a real sport, right? And boxing was, I remember your father was the only person that encouraged me, supported me financially, mentally, was my mentor. And I remember as years went by, I would tell him, like, wallahi, he was my main supporter. He was, paying for my tournament, buying me equipment, funding me at all times, just focus on boxing. And that's what kept me, that saved me, alhamdulillah, I never drank. I was away from alcohol, I was away from the club life, for a main portion of my youth, because he was a mentor, somebody that I looked up to, that supported me in boxing, all the way to the pros, alhamdulillah, he supported me. So I would say that, like you said, being into sports or any type of extracurricular activities that they have offer in high school and colleges is keeping one busy and having a goal. Like you said, you want to always get better. You go to the gym, you're not trying to get caught up with drinking and smoking weed and
partying. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a sport. Just anything in general, something you like to do. Like some people like knitting. anything in general. Something you like to do. Yeah.
Okay. So just a hobby to keep you busy.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you still play basketball, mashallah. So that's almost like a way of life for you. You got. I mean, your day is booked. So you work full time. You got school. And every time I see you, like I know right now tonight, I dragged you to come on this show, but you were ready to go play basketball.
Yeah, 6:30 I was gonna go, but you called me, so I had to stop by real quick.
Allah reward you for letting us benefit from you, mashallah. So I mean, this show, obviously, our points here, it shouldn't be just only for the youth. I think if parents are watching, they can really benefit, because I get a lot of calls, right, and emails and stuff. People saying, well, make dua, be a good influence on my son this, my son that, my daughter this. Well, first, I think for the parents, like I said, I'm 32. I was born and raised here, so I think I do have somewhat of a right to speak about what goes on here, especially with the youth. Like I said, this is, at the end of the day, my country, and I went to school here, and I went to, from kindergarten all the way up to graduating, going to college. Number one is obviously we have to make a connection with the youth, right? Obviously, mashallah, you have an excellent relationship with your father and mother. They actually went to school out here. They were raised here. So for you, your mother's practicing your father. So you guys have more of that connection. I think that helped you a lot. Would you say that's right? Definitely. Yeah. So I think what we need to do is bond with our youth, especially our children. Get them connected with especially in high school. I mean, those scary years are like 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, up to 20 nowadays. And nowadays, unfortunately, the youth goes up to 30, because we have 30-year-olds acting like 20-year-olds, don't we? I mean, when I was growing up, there's a stuff I'm going to mention this regardless. There's a rapper named Jay-Z. He used to say 30s is the new 20s.
I'm so hot still.
Yeah, 30s is the new 20s. Well, I think he wasn't lying about that, because the 30-year-olds are acting like 20-year-olds, unfortunately. So just getting back to that, what I'm saying is, sorry, we have to get off subject there. Company, number one. Number two is making a connection. This goes to the community. We need to make a connection between the youth and the role models in the community, because before we even got live on the show, we were speaking and we have some of the youth here, and they were saying there's no more role models left. Unfortunately, there's just no more Muslim role models that are out there doing positive work that the youth can look up to. So now they're looking up to non-Muslim role models. I think, and another thing is doubting Allah's mercy, first and foremost to myself. And I had this problem myself in the beginning when I started practicing. I was just almost sad and depressed, like, how is Allah going to forgive me? We just stated an ayah in the Quran and a hadith al-Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. And we said this many times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. So one should never, ever, ever despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last thing you were talking about, obviously, keeping company, the connection, the mercy, and being busy, obviously finding a sport or some kind of hobby to keep one busy. What would you say as far as, there's another question I want to ask you. I was out in Southern California, and, me and you are both, we say Afghan American, we're born here, we come, speak Farsi, we're Afghans. I don't want to just pick on the Afghan race, but I've seen this amongst the Palestinians here, Arabs, Afghanis, that I think a lot of the youth, I don't know if it's correct, would you correct me if I'm wrong, are kind of almost leaving the Deen of Islam. And it's a very scary topic. Do you kind of see, because in Southern California, when I'm out there, I see a lot of it's a whole atheist movement going on amongst Afghanis. I was shocked. Can you touch on that?
Definitely. There's some people I know as well that are they'll ask questions like, oh, why does God put us on this earth if we're just here to either go to heaven or hell? They ask questions like that. And even I don't know the answer to some of these questions, so I'm just honestly, I don't know. You just have to have faith in Allah. But it's gotten to the point where they say you can't see Allah. I've never seen God, I've never heard God, you can't touch God, does God even exist? And things of that sort. So there's definitely people not only leaving the Deen as far as not practicing, but just completely saying Islam is not correct, Islam is false. And there's a lot of people I've seen, in the circle of people that I know, or that maybe I even hang out with, some people are kind of just stray away from the religion as if it's as if Islam is invalid.
SubhanAllah. Why do you think, if you don't mind me asking, why do you think a lot of the youth feel like that? Do you have any idea why they might say things like that, or why they might doubt Islam? And this is the religion of their forefathers.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just because they'll see growing up, their parents pray. They see their parents pray. They see their parents fast during Ramadan. They see their parents do all these acts of these religious things. but then their parents never really get on them about it. They never tell them pray. They never say, you know what, this is what Islam is. They never teach them stories about the Prophet. Like growing up, once my family got into their phase of being religious, that's all I do. My father and my uncle, they would tell me stories of the prophets and stuff. You don't really find that anymore. Growing up, kids aren't really getting taught by their parents about religion. And then, so once they get older, they saw that it was something their parents did, and they see it more as a cultural thing, not as a religious thing. So they see it as, oh, that's kind of like what my parents did. I'm like a different person. That's not me. And then they kind of like, they live their life without really believing in anything. More so, I'm just here to live my life, and then I'm done. I'm gonna die. Yeah, which is, I mean,
scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary. Ajib. So you would say it's just more like a cultural thing. The parents, they would never have no understanding or no, would you say, nobody explained to them the tenets of Islam or why we believe in Allah or stories of the Prophet or whatnot. So it's kind of like just being uneducated. Nobody educated them, you would say, about it. That's, would you say, that's one of the main reasons that they doubt? Like exactly. Lack of education?
Yeah, exactly. Because even before my father became religious, he still, like, I was still taught how to pray. Sure. Like, my parents still taught me how to pray at a young age. So when I was like 4 or 5, I still knew how to pray. I still knew the words. I still knew there was Allah. I'm praying to Allah, like, as a child. So then when I grew up, it was kind of one of those things that stuck with me. So then, like, once you grow up believing in Allah, it's kind of one of your iman gets extremely strong. But if it's something that's just thrown at you when you're 18, 19 years old, and the way you think, you're just like, what? I've lived my entire life not knowing about this, so you expect me to just drop everything and believe in this now? It's not really easy. It's almost like trying to convert someone to Islam because they never learned anything. So what's the difference between someone who's a Muslim but doesn't know anything about Islam, who doesn't pray, and then someone who doesn't believe in Allah? They both have no knowledge about the Deen.
Allahu Akbar, mashallah. May Allah reward you, Sidi. So that's an excellent point. So you say planting the seed early. I would say planting the seed early, like mashallah, the parents need to plant the seed early, because now I can make, subhanAllah, you just open my eyes up to this. Now when I have family members that call me, or relatives, or people that are complaining about their children now that they're so far from the Deen and they're doing all kind of horrific things that I can't even mention on TV here. Those families, now that I look back at them, did not plant the seed early. The seed of Islam was not planted in the household early, because if the seed is planted early, you have faith, whatever it might be called, blind faith. So even if you have difficulties, or for a couple of years growing up here, you fall into sin or you stray away, but you still come back on the path.
Exactly.
It's still in your heart. You still love it. You're still Muslim. Like I have friends that, subhanAllah, that no matter what, they still say, you know what, we're Muslim.
Yeah.
We love Islam. So it's grounded in them. I mean, and they come back to what's mashallah, what's been planted in them. Inshallah, we're gonna also pick up calls. If you guys can, I know we're getting a lot of calls now. The phone lines are ringing. If you guys will pick up this call, inshallah, and then inshallah we'll go back to hello. Inshallah, maybe if you guys can call the last 10 minutes of the show, we still have some time left, inshallah. Anyhow, getting back on the topic, so planting the seed early is something very important, mashallah, you would say. And I do agree to that. I also want to touch on a thing here that, like you said earlier, some of the people, they have no purpose in life. Like, like they just think they were created to and we have to differentiate. We have to distinguish between animals and humans, because humans and animals nowadays, I feel like there's not a big difference. I mean, astaghfirullah, like we've been given an aql, right?
Yeah.
The intellect, because animals eat and sleep, humans eat and sleep. But what's the difference between humans and animals is the rational intellect, is the intellect to distinguish between things. And when people are doing activities like animals, I mean nowadays, because animals mate, right?
Yeah.
Humans mate, animals sleep, humans sleep, animals eat, and they even fight amongst each other. Well, humans are fighting amongst each other too. So what's the difference between humans and animals? The difference is the rational intellect, because we do share with them in every other department besides the rational intellect. Now, there's an ayah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَحَسَبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَكُمْ أَبَّثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, did you think that we just created you to play? Is this life just created for amusement and you're not going to return to us? So this is an ayah in the Quran, but you're supposed to reflect and ponder on this, because there's a lot of ayahs in the Quran where there's different reasons for the nuzul, for the reason why the ayah came down. But in this ayah, if you just ponder on this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, did you think we created you for amusement and play and you're not going to return to us? I mean, that right there should make an insan, a human, ponder on these words, right? Are you not going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Allah is saying here, what did you think? Like this life is just fun and joy and you're not going to return, you're not going to answer to Allah? And subhanAllah, and then we can, there's, like it says in the Quran, some ayahs, they give the tafsir of other ayahs. Now, this other ayah, mashallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ زَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Now I'm going to translate this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, because this is especially for the youth, and this is what really when I started practicing, this is what really, I used to ponder on death all the time. Maybe because when I was young, I saw people around me that passed away, young people my age, so I was seeing things like that. That always shocks you and scares you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah is saying, كُلَّ نَفْسٌ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, that every single soul will taste death. وَتُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَتُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, and that you will be paid and recompensed in full on the day of judgment. Right? So each one of us will see our own life, live and direct. I've said this many times, like a movie. You'll see your own life like a movie, live and direct, HD, right in front of you. Every single thing you've done in your life will play right in front of you. Right? The good and the bad. And then it goes, وَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ, that whoever is far from the fire enters Jannah, inshallah, is successful. Now, the last part of this ayah, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ, and what is this life of dunya besides enjoyment of delusion? That's all this life is, enjoyment of delusion. So, this, time's going to pass. I'm 32 and I remember, like it was yesterday when I was your age, 19 years old. Literally, I remember living in your house when I was 19 years old, right? And now, I remember you were, I think at that time you were
like
6. I remember, yeah, 7. I remember you were in first grade. We would drop you off, and now, mashallah, you're all grown, taller than me, bigger than me, sitting right in front of me, mashallah, and I'm benefiting from you, mashallah, tabarakallah. So, time is going to fly. And now, we need to really need to ponder what's our purpose, why were we created, right? Every single thing we do here in this life, we will answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this advice is first and foremost to myself, because every time I read this ayah, wallahi, every time I come across this ayah, it's like I get stuck in my tracks. Like I get scared, like I start choking up. Literally, I'm not lying, because I'm like, whoa, I'm going to see my whole life like a movie. Yeah. Everything I did. Even if I don't sin outwardly, the hadith of Rasul, al-birru husn al-khuluq, that righteousness and piety is good character. وَالْإِثْمُ مَا هَكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ وَكَرِحْتَ أَنْ يَتَّئِلَ عَلَيْهِ نَاسِ, that a sin, the piety is good character, and a sin is what wavers in your heart and you would hate for people to know about it. So it goes even deeper than the outward limbs.
Yeah, it's all on the inside as well.
It's all, mashallah, we just say the inside. That's even scarier, because people might not know what's going on in our insides, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly what's going on, right? And then the hadith says that the sin is what wavers in your heart and you would hate for people to know about it. Mashallah, we're getting close to wrapping up the show. We have a couple minutes left. I'm sorry I couldn't pick up calls, but if you guys want to call in now for the next 2-3 minutes that we have left, we would pick up the lines. Is there other stuff I wanted to ask you? Is there any advice that you would give to me and to the viewers here of, mashallah, being here, coming back, and also you spend time in the East, now you're back in the West. Basically, my question is what would you advise the youth in this day and age, people your age, maybe your peers, people younger than you, people even older than you, because mashallah, you're 19, but mashallah, you're very mature, and obviously that comes from you spending, your foundation, your upbringing, first and foremost your parents. Mashallah, I know your parents, you come from a great family. That, and also your teachers, you studied in the, mashallah, in the East, so you can bridge between the gap between the East and the West, and mashallah, you have Islamic knowledge, and that's the knowledge that, nowadays people want to listen to psychology, but it's like, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam
said all these things 1400 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that what you see now? I know you were taking psychology classes, so you would you say, you know these hadiths, so you heard it 14 years ago as a kid, and now psychology is telling us, but unfortunately people don't want to listen to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they listen to Sigmund Freud.
And this is supposed to be like modern information like through advanced technology, and they're saying this now in 2016, and everyone's like, oh my god, this man's a genius. But then the Prophet was saying this before there was electricity 1400 years ago. So if you can't believe in Islam after that, then I mean,
SubhanAllah. Gee, mashallah. May Allah reward you so much.
I mean, thank you.
Is there anything you wanna say to the youth, or maybe anything you would say that could benefit me and the youth as far as trying to balance here between Deen and Dunia or anything? Any advice?
Nothing specific, but just in general, I just think as youth we shouldn't really get down on ourselves, because I found that being an issue for myself. I'd miss prayers, and there'd go days. Sometimes in Ramadan there'd be days I wouldn't fast, and I'd get down on myself, and I'd be like, man, I've done all this. Why should I turn back around? But I mean, like you said, and like we were going over, Allah is always the most forgiving. So just don't get down on yourself. Keep an open mind. Keep Allah in your heart. And inshallah, everything's going to be good.
MashaAllah, mashallah, tabarakallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really benefited. I'm sure the viewers benefited. It's really good for me to interact with you and benefit, because I've been gone for so long. And mashallah, you gave us excellent advice. And mashallah, thank you so much. Can we ask you to make a dua, maybe a dua you can make for us?
Inshallah.
Inshallah. For the viewers, inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.